He called me dad for the first time, and I almost couldn't drive. When I married Kelly 4 years ago, her son Jake was 8. His real dad had split when Jake was 3, and called only when guilt caught up to him, which meant maybe once every few months. I told myself I wouldn't try to replace the guy. I'd just be there, steady, patient. Jake would come around if and when he wanted to, but he never called me dad, just Ryan. Always Ryan. I told myself it didn't matter, but it did. It really did. At soccer practice, I'd hear kids yell, "Dad, did you see that?" And my head would turn before I remembered. Jake would never say that to me. He'd wave across the field and yell, "Hey Ryan." I'd wave back like it didn't sting, but it did every single time. Last weekend, Jake asked me to take him and his friends to Six Flags. He'd been talking about it for weeks. Of course, I said yes. I always say yes when he wants to do something with me. Kelly teases that I'm too easy on him, but she doesn't get it. Every yes feels like a chance to earn something I can't ask for. Saturday morning, I picked up his friends. First Mason, loud and full of energy, talking a mile a minute about roller coasters. Then Owen, who came out with a backpack his mom had stuffed with snacks, just in case. Jake sat in the front seat messing with the radio, cycling through terrible songs that he sang loudly and off-key. I pretended to hate it. I didn't. Then we pulled up to the last house. A new kid I didn't recognize ran out. Small, braces, a t-shirt 2 sizes too big. Jake turned to me and said, "This is Connor. He just moved here." Connor opened the door and asked, "Who's this?" Jake didn't even hesitate. "This is my dad." For a second I couldn't breathe. My hand stayed on the steering wheel, but everything else in me stopped. He just said it, like it was obvious, like it had always been true. Jake stared straight ahead, pretending it was nothing, but my face betrayed me. I was grinning so wide it hurt. When he glanced over and saw my expression, he rolled his eyes. "Don't be weird about it," he muttered. "I'm not being weird," I said, voice cracking slightly from trying too hard to sound normal. From the back, Owen laughed. "You're definitely being weird." The whole drive to Six Flags, I kept replaying that sentence. My dad, not Ryan, not my mom's husband, my dad. And nobody questioned it. Not one of those kids even blinked. At the park, the boys bolted straight for the biggest roller coaster. I bought the tickets, jogging behind them while they argued about who'd sit in the front. Jake turned back once, scanning the crowd to make sure I was still there. When he spotted me, I gave him a thumbs up. He shook his head like I was embarrassing him, but he was smiling. They dragged me on every ride. The spinning one that made Owen turn green. The drop tower that had Mason screaming the whole way down. Jake laughed so hard he could barely stand. Every now and then, he'd glance at me, just checking that I was having fun. That look alone made every year of trying worth it. After lunch, they spotted one of those game booths with stacked bottles and impossible odds. Jake wanted a ridiculous oversized tiger hanging from the ceiling. "I'm gonna win that," he declared. $5 later, he missed every throw. So did his friends. They groaned, claiming it was rigged. I stepped forward, handed the guy a 10, and said, "Let me try." Jake crossed his arm. "You're not gonna get it either." The first throw knocked all 3 bottles down. The booth guy frowned and handed me a medium bear. "You gotta do it 3 times for the tiger," he said. Challenge accepted. 2 more throws, 2 more perfect hits. Bottles crashed. The man sighed and shoved the giant tiger at me like it offended him. The boys erupted, cheering, high-fiving me, shouting, "Mr. Ryan's a legend!" Jake just stared at the tiger. I held it out. "Here," I said. He took it. "Thanks," he mumbled. Then quieter, almost a whisper, "Dad, just for me." He said it again. We stayed until the park closed. Jake carried that tiger everywhere, refusing to let anyone else hold it. Even when he was too tired to walk straight, he clutched it like it meant something. On the drive home, all the boys passed out in the back seat. Jake stayed awake, hugging the tiger and staring out the window. When we pulled into the driveway, he gathered his stuff and opened the door. Before he got out, he turned and said, "This was cool. We should do it again." "Anytime," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded, climbed out, and went inside. I sat there for a while, engine running, face aching from smiling. Kelly came out onto the porch, waving. I waved back. When I finally turned off the ignition, I just sat there in the dark car and whispered it to myself, testing the sound. "Dad."